I'm doing something in this stadium behind me that I've never done before, and you'll never get the chance to do it either if you don't hurry. I didn't know that you could actually get a view of Lesser Hampden like this. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching this video who well into their Scottish lower league football and know all about Hampden Park, Lesser Hampden, the other two Hampdens that have been predecessors of this Hampden. It's quite an intricate, interesting story. We've got a few people to talk to today who are really going to round off the stories and stuff. When I first moved here, Queen's Park were a League 2 team who played in Hampden Park. Obviously they aren't big enough to fill out, in terms of fans, a stadium of that size, but the SFA now own Hampden Park. I've made many videos in Hampden Park before, and this here in front of you, Lesser Hampden, is due to be, well, it was really due to be Queen's Park's new ground, and I've never seen it from this perspective before. I've still never been inside Lesser Hampden. I have just asked, but it's all shut off apparently, but we're going to speak to some fans and a load of people later on to get context on it. But yeah, they should have been playing here. They played a few games here, but it's now being used for Scotland training. Atletico Madrid's youth team played Celtic B's youth team here in the UEFA Youth League, so it's not now being used by Queen's Park. This is. So this was Queen's Park's historic home for many years. They sold it to the SFA, they built this place, then they played a few games in this place, and now they're moving back to this one. This translates to play for the sake of playing. That is a nod to the old amateur history of Queen's Park Football Club. Really is a fascinating story, this video, and I could have titled it so many different things, but yeah, to play for the sake of playing. It's only recently that they'd even started paying their players. I think with the opening up of the Scottish pyramid system, if they didn't pay their players, they might have eventually got relegated and maybe never come back. They're too big a club to do that, so they have changed the way they run and they operate. But one of the biggest sort of things they maybe could say they missed out on, they had Andrew Robertson here, Scotland captain now. When he left Celtic, he came and joined Queen's Park, who I think were in League 2 when he played for him, and then he went to Dundee United from there, but he had to go for free because they're an amateur club. They couldn't demand transfer fees, so he ended up going from Queen's Park to Dundee United for free as one of the best youngsters in the country. If I was making this video in 1867 when Queen's Park were just formed, I'd be making it here at Queen's Park Recreation Ground. This is where they first played a game of football. If I was making this video in 1873, 7 years after Queen's Park were formed, I'd be making it here. This unassuming little building here is genuinely one of the most fascinating, probably maybe even historically important buildings in world football. The roof that is still on that building is the same roof from the first ever purposefully built international football stadium. In 1883, Queen's Park had to leave here, and we're going to see why. Just a second, here it comes. This is the reason that Queen's Park had to leave this place. Scotland had a pretty good result against England on this ground though, so we won't spend too much time talking about that. This is the next place Queen's Park called home. They called it Hampden Park for a while, until they moved from here again. Then this became known as Cathkin Park, which is still known as today. Look at this. Always special for me to come to Cathkin Park. They don't always have the lines painted on here, but how much more special does that look when the lines are painted on? Probably the greatest abandoned stadium in the world. Again, we're going to be speaking to people who know a lot more about this subject than I do later on in this video, but I've made many videos here at Cathkin Park before. I've been here during the winter, I've been here during the summer, and now being here during the autumn is just absolutely amazing. Look, you can still see like the old terraces, and you can just imagine like what it was like when I think 60,000 people would have come here for Third Lanark games and Queen's Park games and Scotland games and Cup finals and the World Championship final as it used to be known. Again, I've made a few videos on Cathkin Park before, so I won't go into the history of Cathkin Park too much. Again, we're going to be speaking to people who know a lot more about it than I do later on, but yeah, if you want to go back and like look at my old Cathkin Park videos and just search Cathkin Park in YouTube, and I'm sure they'll come up. Always a special place for me, this, like I say. Oh, look at it now with like the yellow leaves of the trees and the oranges and stuff, so nice. But yeah, special place for me, this, because I got a few suggestions. When I first moved to Scotland and started making videos here, I got a few comments from people saying, go and check out Hampden Park, make a video there. I'd never heard of it before, and I did, and the video did really well. And from that moment on, YouTube became my job. So whenever I come back here, I always think back to that video and those times before I did YouTube full time, and then I came here to Hampden Park, did that video, and now I've been on this run ever since. So I've got a lot to thank this old abandoned stadium for. From 1903, Queen's Park have been playing their football in Hampden Park, and Hampden Park is literally over there. Queen's Park wanted to develop a new stadium which was more modern to compete with the bigger crowds that Celtic and Rangers were getting in the early 1900s. And yeah, they moved here and they've been playing their football there ever since. In 2018, 2019, 2020, around there, the SFA put the plans in place to actually buy this off of Queen's Park, which they did. Queen's Park now play at Lesser Hampden, but do they really? Because they only played there for a few months and now they're back at Hampden again. It gets confusing both with the history, the present and the future, but we're going to be finding out a lot more later on in this video. Graham, you've been on the videos a few times before. You are the man to speak to when it comes to Hampden Park, Queen's Park, everything like that. Why are Queen's Park back here at the moment and not at Lesser Hampden, which is just there?
An opportunity, Sam, I think. Obviously Leicester's been getting built over the last 3 years, and Queen's Park has sold this place to the SFA, so been playing away from Leicester for a number of years. And then it was quite a shock, I think, to all the Queen's Park fans to suddenly, Queen's Park is returning back to its...
It's funny how it took them so long to build it. They got it ready and then within a few months they're back in Hampden again. It's strange, but...
Yeah, and I think it's a stratospheric Queen's Park. You know, they nearly got into the Premier League last year.
Yeah.
So I think all the plans and everything else, but if you ask the Queen's Park faithful, they will tell you this is coming home to them. So
they're happier here than they would be in Lesser Hampden.
I think so. I think if Leicester's, Leicester's obviously still getting to get up to a decent capacity. So for to come back here, and especially like Thistle tonight.
And how long will they be here then? Do you know?
They've got the season at the moment. So
just this season, but it's up in the air after that.
You don't know.
Okay.
And as part of that, the Scotland teams get to train at Leicester.
Yep.
So there's obviously been bit of a deal between ourselves and Queen's Park and the SFA to
and like you say, it's Thistle tonight, so it's a Glasgow derby in the Championship.
Yeah.
Queen's Park are a really big team. Their amateur status, I think, has maybe held them back down the years in terms of being able to compete as a huge club. But what have Queen's Park won?
So, I mean, if you think Queen's Park have come through from literally when they turned professionalism, there was the chance they follow some of the other small clubs that have gone down actually out through the trapdoor of the professional league. So you think what Queen's Park have done, they've gone up from the second to the first. They were so close to getting into the Premier League last year and they were really surprising people. But I think it's all the work they're doing at the youth level. They're now an elite training academy that they've got at Queen's Park. So they're really focusing on the future, which is really exciting because.
And the fact about the Scottish Cups for me is probably the most interesting. Like, apart from Celtic and Rangers, it's Queen's Park who've got the most Scottish Cups.
Yeah, and they won 10 in the first 20.
Yeah.
So Queen's Park are the third most decorated club, but they haven't won a cup match a cup final since 1893, but they're still the third most decorated Scottish Cup team in Scotland. So
only in Scotland would that be the case. Yeah. The game has kicked off. We're watching a championship game here today between two teams from Glasgow who people around the world maybe haven't heard of. Everyone's heard of Celtic and Rangers, but it's Thistle and Queen's Park. There's maybe a few thousand people in a 53,000 seat stadium. What are some of the bigger games that have been played here?
So this is the third Hampden.
Yeah.
So the big peak in 1937, it could hold 183,000 people in it.
Wow.
And the authorities got so worried about crushing that they reduced the capacity to 150,000 for two matches in 1937. So the world record at the time was 149,500.
And that
Scotland versus England here.
That was here.
It was here.
So we had the world record attendance here. We've got the record attendance for a European Cup final.
Yes.
Most goals in the European Cup final.
Yes.
That was the same game. 7-3 Real Madrid, Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yep.
What year was that?
1960.
60, and that was 2 hat-tricks as well.
It was a 4. It was 4 and a 3.
Yeah, a 4 and a 3. Di Stefano and
yeah,
Puskas.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, and also another game from Real Madrid.
Yeah, the famous
Zidane's
one,
volley.
the Zidane volley.
And then what else have we had? We've got cup finals.
You've got cup finals, you've got, it's like Scottish Cup finals. So that the one in 1937 was Celtic versus Aberdeen, but the famous one is 1929 when the Hampden Roar was created, when Scotland scored in the 89th minute from a corner, direct from a corner kick, and that is where you get the Hampden Roar.
The Hampden Roar.
That's the Hampden Roar.
So there's a penalty. That's up the end that Zidane scored his volley in.
Yeah.
So Partick Thistle have got a penalty, and they could score in the same goal that Zidane has scored in. Zidane, Puskás, Di Stefano, and whoever took that penalty for Partick Thistle. How does it feel, Queen's Park are back at Hampden Park?
It feels good. Back home.
Do you feel like you're back home when you play here? And did you go and watch them play at Lesser Hampden?
Yeah, we watched the first game.
You watched, what was that like?
It was good. Like a good feeling at a new stadium.
Yeah, you got your new stadium there, but would you rather be here long term or over at Lesser Hampden?
I'll be here.
Gordon, huge Queen's Park fan. I love it. You got the 150 years on your scarf. Why do you support Queen's Park? You're from Glasgow. Why do you support this club?
Just a local club instead of choosing Celtic Rangers. I said it, 13 years now I've been supporting them, so it was only £2 to get into a game. I've been supporting since I'm amateur.
It's a little bit more expensive coming now.
Tattoo in my arm and everything.
Queen's Park tattoo. And what does this football club mean to Scotland? So there's a lot of history involved.
It means a lot to the fans. I wouldn't say it means a lot to Scotland, like Scottish people themselves, but a lot of people don't know the rich history of Queen's Park.
Yeah.
152 nearly years old.
It's insane, isn't it? The amount of history.
The Hampden over there.
Yeah. And so, Lesser Hampden, you left Hampden, sold this to the SFA, moved to a few different stadiums while that was being built.
4 years.
It got built after 4 years, like you say, without having a home. You played in there for
2 games.
2 games, and then you're back in here. As a fan, how do you feel about that?
Ridiculous. Should have just come out and told us the truth. We always knew we were going to come back here. Shambles.
And are you happier being in the big Hampden than the small Hampden, or do you think because obviously this is so big and you don't get a huge amount of fans as we can see in terms of the
I think
stadium?
because we're in the Championship now, we're attracting big crowds like Partick Thistle, Dundee United, Dunfermline, the money talks.
So it suits you being back here, do you think?
Probably
Or would
just
you-
because that's unsuitable.
But say they can increase Lesser Hampden to 3,000 or 4,000, would you prefer to play there?
I would go there if they could add another stand at the back because there's space to do it.
Okay, so you think give it another couple of stands, actually make it a little bit bigger,
Could.
and you'd be happier there
But
than in here?
personally, I don't think they will.
This is your home, right?
I think so. It's always been our home.
Keith, you are Queen's Park's most famous fan, I take it. How long have you been a supporter of Queen's Park?
Since 1965?
And how many games have you been to then?
No idea, absolutely no idea. I haven't missed a game home and away since 1979, so that's about 1,900 games.
What about during COVID then?
I was still at the games.
Wow.
Yeah, because the club got me to do
Commentary, right?
Commentary,
Yep.
or do the match report.
Yep. So you are a part of the club, you are part of Queen's Park.
A wee bit, I suppose. Yeah.
What does it mean to be back at Hampden Park then
It's
after
great.
the last few years?
I think it's good. I think it's good. It would have been great if we'd got Lesser Hampden built, let's say for 5,000 people, and we got a bit of atmosphere. But do you know what I quite like being at Hampden Park? We built this place. We built the biggest ground in the world.
Yep.
It was the biggest ground in the world from 1903 to 1950. So I'm actually quite glad we're back here. It's not the same Hampden, but it's Hampden Park and we built this, so we should be here.
And I've spoken to Graham and I've looked around all the Hampdens today in the Kafkin Park and everything like that. Like, it's absolutely unbelievable. We can see like some of the legendary games even behind you just here and everywhere. And like, what does it mean to the people of Queen's Park, the fans of this club, to know that they built this stadium and the amount of legendary moments that have happened, the European Cup finals, the Euros, everything else.
It is really great. It's really great, and I don't think it's appreciated by Scottish people as much as we've had people here today from all over the world. And they want to come and see Queen's Park playing at Hampden Park because they think this is just a wee bit strange, you know. You've got this small club playing at Hampden Park, but they know that we built this thing, and it does not compute. You know, it's a wee bit strange. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great.
And how important is Queen's Park to world football?
And I know I'm a Queen's Park fan, but we are easily the club that's put most into the development of football in the whole world. You know, Real Madrid have won all these trophies, and Liverpool and Manchester United and Bayern Munich, they've won all these trophies. But were they involved in the development of the game of football? No, they weren't. It was Queen's Park. We're now a bit relevant again. You know, we've been kicking about the bottom of the second division for far too long, and we've taken on professionalism, and we've got these guys in from Holland, and we've got a fantastic training centre now.
Yeah. So watch out, Europe. Queen's Park are coming.
Absolutely, absolutely. Bayern Munich, here we come. Amazing, love it.
Another penalty up the Zidane end. The Zidane end. Got loads of action. Queen's Park with the pen. Much better atmosphere than I was expecting. Obviously, when you find out the Queen's Park are going to play here, it's not going to be full. Look, I mean, look how empty the stadium is, but still sat up here with the Nutters Queen's Park fans behind me. The atmosphere actually isn't that bad. And they've had 2 goals disallowed, they've had another one disallowed by the looks of things. But it's less about the game today, more about the history. I can't believe we're actually watching Queen's Park play here at Hampden. Everyone associates the stadium with Scotland's national team, I suppose, who aren't really from here, but it's been given Queen's Park a 2-1 up, but yeah, what I was going to say is everyone would associate, look at him, look what it means to these fans. Everyone would associate this place with Scotland, but this was owned by Queen's Park for almost all of its history until now, and now Queen's Park are back here, which is kind of fitting for them. But it's much better atmosphere than what I was expecting. I can barely hear myself think. Instantly after Queen's Park have scored, Thistle have scored. So we've had the attendance, 2,800 in here today, and the capacity is what, 53,000?
52.5.
52.5. 2,800 in there, and over half would be Thistle, would you say?
I would say, yeah, over half.
When we were on our way in, we were talking about, well, I was asking you about what would have happened to this football club had they have gone professional when all the other clubs did, because in the early days of football it was all amateur, and then money started to come into it, and people were against money going into it, and they are in a lot of ways now, against about like the Saudi money, for example. So there's always been opposition to money in football. But where would this football club be if they went professional when Celtic did and when Rangers did? Because they were bigger than Celtic and Rangers before that.
So you have to think about Queen's Park at the time. They won 10 of the first 20 Scottish Cups. By 1893 they were Scotland's senior club. If they had gone with the league, if they'd actually started in the league in 1890, was when the Scottish League had done, and they had this stadium, because they built the world's biggest stadium, they had a fan base, they had Glasgow, they would have been bigger than Real Madrid.
You think they'd have been bigger than Real Madrid? And obviously, one Glasgow team has won the European Cup.
Yes.
You think that Queen's Park would have won the European
Queen's
Cup?
Park had the money, they had the nous, they had everything, they had the heritage, they had the tradition. If they'd gone professional, they'd have been bigger than Real Madrid.
And this would have been full today, and they'd have been playing in the Premiership.
Yeah.
Fucking right! Fucking right. 2-2 in a Glasgow derby. What did you make of the game?
I think it was, I mean, it's been an improvement on how we've been playing.
Yeah. You've not had the best of seasons so far, but a bit of an improvement.
We probably should have took our chances a bit better, but so the referee.
And what do you think of playing back in Hampden Park then?
I don't know what the point of doing a place at Hampden was if they're just going to play in Hampden anyway.
I've had a lot of people say that today. Lesser Hampden looks brilliant. I feel like it looks quite good, but it needs to be bigger, right?
Yeah, it's not championship level.
I feel like that's too small and this is too big.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a little bit in between.
It's the big bloody box in Lesser Hampden that ruins it.
Would you like to go back to Lesser Hampden if it was a bit bigger?
Yeah.
Firstly, before I just wrap up the whole Queen's Park stuff, just let everybody know where they can find you and the work that you do.
Yeah, so you can find us, the Hampden Collection, so you can go to hampdencollection.com. Got all the stuff that we do about promoting Scotland's role in and creating world football, and its amazing development that it did over the years in the Scottish professors. But if you can visit one site, it's footballsquaremile.com. There's 21 sites in Glasgow, so within 1 square mile we invite the entire 3.5 billion football family to come and visit it. It's all about the story of Glasgow and how it was a powerhouse of football by the end of the 19th century.
Amazing. And now obviously back to Queen's Park then, like, and Scotland and just football in general, like I struggle to get it out of my brain, like how important it all is and like what we've seen tonight. And even though there's only a few thousand people in the 53,000 seater stadium, it's so important that Queen's Park play at Hampden, I feel like. How do we wrap up what we've seen and what this place means to football in general?
Queen's Park are the pioneers of the modern game. You know, the way that you watch it, they built the stadiums to watch it in. That's the template for every football ground ever built. They built the passing and running game, so the game that you watch today, and then more importantly, they taught it. So they went around the world and taught what they'd seen and everything that you do today. So everyone should come and see a Queen's Park game in their life, and everyone should come and visit this place.
So forget Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Barcelona, it's all about Queen's Park.
It's all about Queen's Park, Sam.